and welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be kind of a fun video because I am going to give you guys a look into the two agendas that I had right before I started bullet journaling. So you guys might remember, it's been a while since I've started, but basically I started bullet journaling at the end of March 2016 and like really got into it April of 2016. So these are my agendas from 2014 to 15 and 2015 to 16. So you actually will see the one that I did the full year before I started bullet journaling, and this you'll actually see how I sort of went between an agenda and a bullet journal when I first started. Because you guys, I've told you this, I'm sure I've mentioned this a bunch of times, I am a planner. Like, I have always had agendas. I actually still have agendas for, I don't even know how many years that just are at my parents' house in the United States because I can't bring myself to get rid of them. It's like getting rid of old journals. At some point I might, but for now, like, this is a record of my life. And so, funny story, the reason why this video is even happening is because I am hoping to move soon, and I needed to find out if I had written down anywhere information on how much money I had paid when I first moved in. So like, did I pay first and last month's rent plus the security deposit, or did I just pay first month's rent and the security deposit? So let me tell you, I actually found that information in this little agenda right here, and this is why we keep our old agendas. So because I was looking for this, I was flipping through it and I was just like laughing at myself at like how ridiculous these are. I mean, I love it, but like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, I can admit that. And so I posted on Instagram and I was like, hey, you guys, would you be interested in seeing inside my pre-Bujo agendas to see what I actually planned like before I started bullet journaling? Because I feel like I've said this, like, I was always a planner, but you guys have never really seen evidence of how I planned prior to using a bullet journal. And here it is. So guys, it's going to be a long video, just like buckle in, because rather than doing two different videos, I'm going to make this one video in like my pre-Bujo existence sort of thing. And I hopefully near the end will also include some pretty much unseen footage of the first Bujo I ever did, which really quick on that. So when I first started bullet journaling, I didn't have a dot grid notebook in my house, and I was like I was itching to start. So I just grabbed an old Moleskine, because you guys can see these are both Moleskine agendas. So I was like definitely Moleskine prior to LEUCHTTURM, and I just happened to have an old lined Moleskine in my house. And I started going through, and oh my God, I just like vomited every single bullet journal idea I had ever seen online. Probably most of them were boho berry, like, let's be honest, in 2016, that's like where it was at. And I made it through like half a week and was like, oh my God, I hate this. This is so cluttered. I cannot do this. Went out and I bought a LEUCHTTURM because I'm a nerd. I had to have like the journal, bought a LEUCHTTURM and started. And so if you guys want to see inside my very first like full bullet journal, there is a flip through on here. It is super old, like, sorry guys, it's super old, but I will try and include that footage of my actual first bullet journal that I literally only used for like 3 or 4 days before I like decided not to. And thankfully I had the foresight to film a really quick video on my phone, like of a flip through of this old journal before I trashed it, because I like didn't even want to see it anymore. Anyway, that'll be for the end of this video. So let's get started. So before using a bullet journal, I actually used an agenda, and prior to this style of Moleskine, I actually used an agenda that you could get at Staples. It was about like this big. And what I really liked was it had your monthly with a tab, and then behind it were the weeks. And that's how I do my bullet journal now. Unfortunately, I was unable to find those. Also, this was when I was going to be moving to France and I wanted something really small. I actually used to have one or two of these when I lived in Spain as well, because it was just really pocket size. And unfortunately, Moleskine does not set up that way. They do all of their months up at the beginning, and then they have the weeks after. So this is actually the weekly agenda with like the week on the left side and a notes page on the right side. So I have actually not really gone through these, so you guys might see some random like index cards pop in here if I need to censor something, but also this is literally from 2014, so like most of this information is probably no longer an issue in whatever way. Like, yeah, we'll see. So let's pull in here so you guys can kind of see. So you will see in here, I like didn't fill anything in, as like honestly nothing has changed. Our first instance of covering up personal data, I had the copy code from the school I used to work at like 4 schools ago because I didn't want to forget it. Then I have my, so this is like the little year overview. And actually, because this is the super tiny one, I don't think there's even a monthly calendar. I think it's actually just a monthly log style. And can we just appreciate the fact that every single day and month is checked off, like no matter what, everything is checked off because I had to. So you might also notice that I have like color coding. Now, I don't know what my color code means anymore because I did not have the foresight to actually write down a legend for it. But for example, this blue is travel, this purple is travel, this is an event, that's an event, this was like, I think red was like urgent, then blue became work. Like, don't even know why. Don't even ask me why, I have no idea. Also, oh yeah, this was actually, we started my first year when I was here as an assistant, we actually started a German club to like learn German, so that was what this was for. And then black was holidays, somehow. So yeah, and then probably, yeah, so I probably started my new agenda in September, which is why these aren't crossed off. So let's take a look. This goes into 2015, once again, with my like, sort of color coded, but not like 100% all the time. And like, okay, so this was, oh, what? No, hold on a second. Okay, so blue was work here in France. Red was urgent. Purple was like events, somehow. And then, and also travel. But then, going back to green, I actually, my first summer here, I actually went back home and I worked summer camp at my old job for 2 weeks. And so I think that's why it's green. I don't know. So yeah, just using kind of a monthly log. Somehow green ended up being holidays. Like, I don't actually know how it works. So this is probably around the time that I switched into the next agenda. Probably why it just stops. Definitely did not use holidays and events. All right, let's see if we can go through 2016. Did not really use, just put in holidays. Like, I was in the next agenda because I think these are like 18-month agendas. And so I like to have that overlap because I did the school year, but I always ended up moving into a new one before the old one was finished. So that's why I think there's some holes kind of there. So here I have telephone codes for places I might actually call. Oops, oh my gosh, these pages are so hard to turn. Timetable, definitely did not use. So now we get into the fun stuff. So these were my weeklies. Okay, so you guys will see when I travel. So this was actually just like, I think I actually probably had a different agenda that I was using and then I filled it in here because I wanted to have like, and I used to do this a lot with my agendas because I would have like a couple months overlap. Sometimes I would fill in a little bit of like the time before I actually started using it to have that record. Just because. So when I would travel, a lot of times up by the day, I would write where I was and then I would write through kind of what we did and then, you know, some extra like information over here. So this was actually a trip to San Francisco and to visit my best friend and to Michigan to visit my brother. And you'll see here, I've got work stuff and then I have just random notes, you know, notes. So what I would try and do is actually, if they had notes that went with the task, I would just put them over to the right here. So this, I was going to the dentist, I had to do this stuff. This, I had my physical, I had to do this stuff. And yeah, so I would check off the day when I was done. If I didn't have anything like big going in there, I would just leave it blank. So again, work stuff, various things. So this was actually just information. I got my contract to be an assistant. Various things moving on here. Okay, so yeah, events I had to do, pick up, work stuff. I had to bring clothes to the tailor, so I wrote down what clothes I had to bring. Stuff related to things that were going on with this particular thing. And like, this is a crazy one where I had, so this was actually an address for the job I was doing, and then I had different like task lists for the day, because this was my agenda, so I actually didn't do, if I did task like to-do lists or whatever, they were on other paper, but sometimes I would do them on here if it had to do with a specific day or whatever. Man, all kinds of stuff. This was actually right before I left. Because I literally, so my family, part of my family lives up in Massachusetts, and they do this thing called Lobster Fest, and so this was the last like big family event I went to before I moved to France, and then left for France on September 16th, and like all the stuff. So a lot of this is going to be travel stuff because my parents actually came over with me and we traveled around Normandy for a little while. And so this was all like various like trip information. This was to do stuff I had to do once I actually got back to my town and had to like set things up basically. I had information on how much I was paid. I probably was paid for this. I just somehow never crossed it off. Don't know why. Like various different things. So I was observing. So I had a bunch of different classes. So I had the teacher's name and the room numbers, training day, more various things, information on like money stuff. I had to recharge my phone because I had like the, you know, like the credits or whatever, and I ran out, so I had to recharge it. And you can see like I have sort of personal events. Blue looks like it was errands. Green was other things, because this was German and getting our clothes washing machine delivered. Like I had like a rhyme and a reason to it when I was doing it, but it seems like some of the lines were kind of blurred as to what fell into which category. I don't even know why. Don't even know why, guys. So going through all of this stuff, and you can see like some things, there was a lot of stuff going on and I didn't use this right page as much, but I tended to use this right page as like task lists. So this is reminding me, this is basically what my weekly looks like now, right? I have my days of the week down the left side. I mean, granted, I give them less space, and I have a running task list on the right. Now, I don't clump my tasks together like I used to, but I do organize them based on like generally what are they? Are they work, personal, or social media? But I didn't even think about that, but this actually like, this harks back to my days of using an agenda, and this just, I guess, worked for me. I mean, granted, my weekly tends to be a lot less precise now because I fill it in as I'm filling in my dailies. But like even I would write down when I was sick, like just information, general information that you never know. Like I might want to know this later. Did I get paid? That's a good question. Did I ever get paid? I think so. This was like during the Christmas holiday. So all this purple was different travel stuff, like stuff we were doing. Again, still traveling. This red, I was getting sick a lot actually my first year in France. So you guys probably all know I have celiac. And when I first moved to France, I was living with somebody who, we had the conversation. I was like, look, I have celiac, so I can't have like any gluten, and like I can't ingest any gluten, but we tried to be really careful. However, she would still have bread and stuff, and I was getting sick every 2 months like clockwork. So actually after Christmas, it was getting so bad. I was so sick during Christmas that year that I decided to retry doing the autoimmune paleo diet. So I started tracking it in here, like, when did I actually start it? And, here, batch cooking, like, that kind of fun stuff. And I, have listed that on here, so I had an idea how long did I actually stick with this, and whatever, you will see it's not super long. So I do have some sort of a color coding system. It's just not entirely consistent, which, happens when you don't give it a legend or a key. And, I've still got sort of notes, if you will, like the bullet journal style of note, where I'm like, oh, I just need to remember I was sick this time, or I did this thing after the fact. So I have those kinds of things. I have some tasks in here, like information when I got sick again, because of course I got sick again, as you do. This was another trip. Yeah, this was another trip. So purple. Crazy, crazy times. Lots, oh my gosh, lots and lots of tasks. This was a big project I was working on at the time, so that's why it was like written really huge. Various things. So again, red was stuff that was super important. Blue was work. Purple was like social stuff, I think. Crossing out stuff because why not? Oh my goodness. This is quite the blast to the past. So again, this was one that, when was this? So this would have been May 2000 and, yeah, this was May 2015. So I was actually trying to sign up for classes, so I think this was just like things I had to do those days. I even wrote down if it was a lazy day, and I basically did nothing of note. So all of this kind of fun stuff. Oh my gosh, like Yep, traveling. Various things, important things, different things I did. This was a list of ideas for possible jobs I could look into getting in order to stay in France. This was, this was the entire week. It was English week, so it's a camp that we do here. And so I just wrote down like, okay, on this day I had to go here, then this was me coming back home, and these were 2 day trips that we did as part of this English week, and that was like all the information I had. We actually had like a schedule printed out, so I think that's why I probably didn't do it in here. So yeah, just kind of flipping through. Crazy. So yeah, definitely some days were not as detailed. This was during the summer, so we actually didn't have work. So even during the summer, I would still write something down for a lot of the days because I just like couldn't not, I guess. I don't know. I'm still kind of that way. Don't know why I crossed that out so harshly. I don't actually know what that says. There, somehow I decided to leave this in here. So this was the start of the second year when I was an assistant, and so you can see like it really tapers off. So this is going to be when oops, I think I'm skipping. Yeah, so this I had pre-set up school holidays. So this is actually when I switched over to the next one. So let's take a look back in the back. There's like a little notes section. So let's see, what do I have in here? So I had the library hours for where I was living and this like code that's obviously super expired, and different places I wanted to go in Paris, random expenditures, codes and stuff I don't even know what it is. Like, yeah. So this was my first little agenda from when I was living in France, and honestly the rest of my agendas are still in the US. These are just the only 2 that I have in here. So let's take a look at the following year so probably like August, September 2015. So I had to cover this up because it actually has my phone number. But you will see, starting with the washi tape and really awkward attempts at initial hand lettering kind of stuff. Like this was like way back when, guys. So I'm actually just going to directly flip to the calendar because there's like a bunch of personal information in the other section. So I have my calendar over here. So I have my birthday circled here. I have no idea why I've circled those. They're probably birthdays, but as you see, I didn't write anything down, so now I don't remember. So this was for 2015, and because this is the larger size, yes, we actually have calendars, which, you know, like I don't use a calendar right now, I'm using the monthly log, but I previously have always used calendars. I love just like, it helps my brain. So this one had a calendar, so you can see I have, you know, when I'm traveling, this was another work thing. So this was actually the work thing that was in this past journal, and you can see I kind of have like backfilled certain things when I moved into this particular agenda. But again, July, August, pretty light, and then this is when things really started. So I kind of would, okay, super random. When I filled in, this was actually a university classes I was taking. So I had morning and afternoon classes. This is probably closer to early afternoon, morning and afternoon, and afternoon. I like would fill it in the box sort of when during the day it was, like, yeah. So here somehow I have changed, hold on. Okay, so purple was traveling, green is holidays, purple is personal now, green or blue is work and university, and then red is like important, I guess. I also kept track in the notes section how much money I was earning each month. So this is like early budgeting. This was like before I used any sort of budgeting software. I just was keeping track of my income. And again, checking off the months, checking off the days, all of that fun stuff. This was, so I started doing this yellow. These, I think, yeah, these are school holidays. Did that. These are, again, probably just birthdays. And keeps going. Some things are neater than other things. And here, I guess I just decided I was like over using color coding. I have no idea. Like, I don't know why all of a sudden this is mostly in black and blue. Again, like budgeting information, all of this. Oh, you know what this is? No, I know what this is. So this is the point. So basically, at the end of March is when I started my first bullet journal. And then April is the first full month that I started in my Bujo. So here, look. I'm such a nerd. Love it. So on March 27th, I started bullet journaling, like started first ever, right? Literally got 5 days. So wait, no, I started bullet journaling and then BOHO. Why did I just write that? I have no idea. But then I got my new bullet journal on Saturday, April 1st that I got like a LEUCHTTURM. Oh, I bet I bought my bullet journal then and I was like setting up and then I started it on here, but I was like playing around for the couple of days in the old one just to kind of see how things worked, right? So at this point, I had probably already filled in April on here, but then from this point on, I was doing my bullet journal, and these are probably STAEDTLER FINELINERS because that's when I probably got my first pack of those. And so I've done it really, because I started using my bullet journal more and more, I started doing less and less in here. And you can see here that I like cross stuff off, but like there's nothing on here because I basically just switched completely into my bullet journal. That's what it is. So, and then basically all I have on here are school holidays because I completely switched over into my bullet journal. So let's take a look. Oops, what have we got in here? Oh. Once again, have not used my timetable. This is standard. So this is, you know, this was in my previous agenda and I just kind of filled in some basic information. Most of this is basic travel information or like things I just want to remember, just basic. You can see I didn't really use any of this space over here because it was kind of after the fact when I moved into this agenda. I just kind of refilled in so I'd have a reference. Basically, so I wouldn't have to constantly refer to the old agenda, so I could just kind of look in here for stuff that happened just before I moved in here. So there. This is probably all still from the old one. This, what was this? You know what this was? I actually went through a period in 2000, this would have been 2015, where I was doing a bunch of language tracking, and I actually had this like super involved spreadsheet where I was tracking for each language what I was doing, how long I was doing it, and like what activities I was doing. So like was I reading, writing, listening, or whatever. And so this was probably just a general tracker. What were the languages I actually did? Now, don't feel intimidated because it was probably that I listened to music for Spanish, French, and Italian. I probably watched some videos in ASL and I probably listened to music in Arabic, I'm guessing. But yeah, I think that's what this was from. Oh man, that was old. So there, various other information, starting to kind of get more information here. So what I started doing down here is I actually started writing down how, because I had private students for a while, I would write down how much I earned each week from private students, so then I could like really keep track on my monthly how much I actually earned. So again, various things, so like personal, work, anniversary, information basically, and I think black was like translate. I don't know. Again, I didn't actually write down what my key was, so that was not super duper helpful, was it? So various information, and you can see like I would kind of clump stuff together. So at this point I was doing French classes at the university, so here's all the homework I had to do. Here are the due dates probably. Here I had to do prep work for my teaching job, and then these were things that had to go with specific days. So I think I kind of like sort of in my mind split it this way, where anything that was next to the day on this side went with that day, and then anything over here was clumped kind of by like category of task, if you will. And again, you see homework, prep, pretty standard. I am consistent. Like I might not always label it clearly, but I am consistent in what I do. So yeah, and I was a lot busier this year, which is why I decided to get a larger agenda, because I wanted to make sure I had enough room to fit everything I needed to do, because this year I was basically just an assistant, and I had a couple of private students, whereas this year I was an assistant and I was taking French classes at the university, so I needed more space to plan my life basically. So yeah, going on through, and literally like you can see I just basically used this section for like, these were general tasks, prep, homework, and then I didn't have anything that was next to a specific day, so I just left it blank. Like, guys, this is how my brain works. This one obviously didn't have much. This was a holiday probably. Yeah, this was a holiday. So I was in the US visiting family, so there wasn't really much for me to do on the task side of things. And once again, back in with normal work. all kinds of fun stuff. Like, and you guys might notice that there is a mix of like French and English in here, probably some Spanish at some point, because I would just kind of write down however I like thought of the particular task. Yeah, that's just kind of the way I do. I'm a little bit more consistent, I think, in my bullet journal, but I do still have things that I write down in French and things that I write down in English for sure. And it's just one of the ways that my brain works. But yeah, pretty consistent. Like, honestly, pretty consistent with how I set up each week. Like, there is a color coding that I use. Oh man, started getting into highlighters, started boxing stuff. Like, who even knows? Who even knows? That's, sometimes I color code my like tasks. Oops. Sometimes I color code my tasks to go with whatever they are. Sometimes it's just like, this was probably an important thing. Sometimes it's just in black. So this is actually, okay, so we've actually gotten into April into May. So going back into the end of March, whoopsie daisy. So going back into the end of March, I have, let's take a look at the bullet journal stuff. So let's see, here, 27th, I don't have any notes here. So here, prep, and then work on my bullet journal. So this was probably when I got the new bullet journal, and so like the LEUCHTTURM potentially. And so I started working on that there. So you'll see kind of from this point on, you know, a few fewer colors in some ways, some slightly different things here. I was still very clearly using my agenda though. A lot less color coding on here. Just like getting messier with my writing because I also had my bullet journal. And then now, like, I've completely abandoned any sort of color coding whatsoever. I think what I was doing at this point in time is because I had my bullet journal and it was more organized, I was kind of filling in after the fact in here just to have like this reference, because I was like, oh my God, I still need to have a reference in my agenda because I can't just like, you know, give up my agenda kind of thing. And it's just gotten like crazy, like the really, really crazy writing, just really messy, no color coding, all that kind of fun stuff. So this is probably all stuff that I filled in after the fact, and you'll notice it's getting sparser and sparser until I finally was like, hey, I'm actually not using this anymore, like at all. Like, no, there's, let's see. Yeah, definitely just was fully using my bullet journal at this point. But it did, because I had planned in an agenda for so long, and we're talking years, I had a really hard time letting go of this style of planning. And so since I had already started an agenda for that school year, I was like, well, I'm just gonna kind of keep using it. And once I felt comfortable being completely in my bullet journal and like I wasn't gonna miss information or whatever, that's when I was like, okay, we can retire the Moleskine agenda, like we can stop using this. But I kind of had it for a while as almost as a crutch, basically, because I just wasn't ready to give up my agenda because it's what I had known for so long. Let's see, what have we got here? Various questions I had about French, like literally don't even know what some of this stuff is. I also had an address book in this, which I'm not gonna flip through because I'm sure it's got personal information. Ooh, what have we got back here? So let's see, I haven't looked at this in years. There's, yep, mostly contact information for various people. Yep, basically. So we'll just stick that back in there. So yeah, that is what my agenda used to look like. When I say that I used to be a planner, like this is what I mean. This is how my brain worked, and this is one of the reasons why I actually found, aside from like me being nervous about giving up my actual agenda, this is one of the reasons why I found bullet journaling made so much sense to me. And it really is just that with my bullet journal, I started incorporating the artistic side of things, and just it's allowed me so much more flexibility. I've gotten so much better about not procrastinating as much. I think I've done more in the past couple of years than I would have done if I'd had a regular agenda, because it's really just like not just in changing, you know, okay, yeah, I draw all my spreads in my own notebook. It's really made me think about how I plan and why I plan, the, you know, the different approaches I take to planning. It's allowed me to be more flexible. And so I think that for me is why bullet journal has worked so well, is because I already was organized, and it's just really allowed me to level up my organization and my productivity. Because obviously it wasn't that I didn't plan or I wasn't organized to begin with. Like, that obviously was not the issue. It just kind of helped me hone and focus my energy in more efficient and better ways, I guess. So before I let you guys go, I'll do a little like picture in picture, or kind of give you a little look at my old, like my absolute first bullet journal that no longer exists. Like, it literally no longer exists. I have since thrown it away, but I did film some footage of it, so you can take a look at sort of what, you know, if you've seen my first bullet journal flip through and you compare it with this one, you'll see they're very similar. I just had kind of reduced the amount of doodling and quotes and all that kind of stuff, and you guys can tell like it's definitely very different from what I do now. But yeah, that's a look at what I was doing before I started bullet journaling, what kind of how I got into bullet journaling, what that transition looked like for me from an agenda to an actual bullet journal. And man, it's been a ride. So if you guys have any comments or questions, let me know down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun just kind of like looking back at how I used to plan, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Hey guys, so if you've made it all the way to the end of this video and are actually watching my end screen and you're not subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you would. There's a little button right there for you to do it. And if you're interested in watching some more of my videos, I have links to 2 of my older videos off to the left there, so you can check those out if you would like to, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.